Did you know that Domino's delivers over 1 million pizzas every single day? As one of the most traditional brick and mortar retailers, Domino's has been serving up cheesy goodness since the 1960s. But in a world where technology is evolving at lightning speed, I couldn't help but wonder, how does a company rooted in the physical world embrace a new technology such as artificial intelligence? In this week's episode, I sit down with the director of AI at Domino's Pizza to explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping the future of retail. Can artificial intelligence really transform the way that we order our favorite pies?
I think there's not an area of any industry that won't be touched by this Gen AI revolution. What an exciting time to be alive.
Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Your engagement is what makes this podcast possible. We have several exciting episodes coming up that tackle topics such as autonomous AI agents and AI safety.
This is the OpenAI Changes Everything podcast with your host, Stephen Walther, where we explore how OpenAI is transforming the future of humanity.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today I'm super excited to have Zachary Fragoso here. And Zach, let me give a quick bio. By the way, Zach, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'll give a quick bio. Zach is a director of data science and head of machine learning operations at Domino's, where he is on a mission to sell more pizza and have more fun by using data. Domino's considers itself to be a, quote, tech company that sells pizza, end quote, delivering, here's a big number, over 1 billion pizzas a year across the globe. So again, Zach, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm sure you get asked this question all the time. I can't help myself. What's your favorite pizza?
Oh boy, I'm a big fan of the New Yorker pizza we just launched. So I like my crust thin and foldable. And other than that, I'm a cheese and pepperoni guy, pretty straight shooter.
Nice. Okay. Cheese and pepperoni. Got it. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today because Domino's is an example of a company that's, again, very technology driven, jumped onto AI. You're very much, in tune with what Domino's is doing with artificial intelligence. And I think a lot of our audience is super curious about how artificial intelligence is going to impact, retail long term. I think Domino's is a great example of that. So let me just start by asking about the big picture here. What are like the primary use cases for AI in a retail business like Domino's?
Yeah, I think retail is a really interesting space to be in for AI. So kind of by definition, AI isn't a core piece of the retail business, not a piece of the product that we sell. At the end of the day, we've been selling pizzas at Domino's for 50 years before AI has come along. And if it never came along, we would continue to sell pizza. So when you're in this space, it's kind of interesting. It's not a core to the business, but there's tremendous opportunity nonetheless. So the things that we think about when we're looking for ways to harness AI, it's really either making the customer experience better somehow or making our store operations more efficient. And it's really about these incremental improvements. So we're looking for ways that we can give you a more accurate delivery time on your pizza. We can make our supply chain more efficient. We can help our team members make pizzas faster, get them to your door fresher and hotter. So it's those type of incremental improvements that when you have a large retail business like Domino's,
yeah,
it's those incremental improvements have a large impact on our bottom line and can give us a competitive advantage over our peers in the space.
Got it. So let me echo back to make sure I'm understanding. But what I think I hear you saying is, at the end of the day, you guys make pizza. That's your core product. That's what people care about. If you make crappy pizza, no one's going to go to Domino's. But what AI does is it, as you said, gives you a competitive advantage, allows you to do things more efficiently, create a better customer experience. So really, if you're thinking in terms of AI and retail, you shouldn't lose track of, sort of like your core product, but you should think about how AI will, sort of improve the customer experience and make your operations more efficient.
Exactly.
So let me ask, I know, AI covers a lot. There's a lot of different types of artificial intelligence. The thing that people are excited about most recently, large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. I'm curious about specifically those types of AI. Do you think that those will have a big impact on a business like Domino's or other retail businesses? Do you think that there's opportunities for to employ large language models?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what an exciting time to be alive. I think there's not an area of any industry that won't be touched by this Gen AI revolution. But when I think about this and I think about applications in enterprise, uh, I was just at the Databricks Data and AI Summit in June, and one of the big messages they put up on the board was something like 80% of Gen AI products fail to make it into production and to realize business value. And I was thinking, like, why is that? And
That
what
seems
are the
bad.
20?
Yeah, that seems really bad.
Yeah, yeah. But what are the 20% doing right
Right, 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 right.
that are being successful, right? So I think when I think about Gen AI in retail and in enterprise, it's the ones that are successful, and the things that we're trying to focus on at Domino's are focusing on the business impact, not necessarily the cool factor. Because there's a Venn diagram there of products that are cool to do and have big business value, but there's,
Right, right, right.
uh, the other piece is uh, companies that fail to invest in their data aren't able to join the Gen AI party, and they're
Right.
slow to get up to speed. So radical focus on data and treating your enterprise data as an asset, something that can drive value, not something that's just a cost that we have to incur to store on our servers.
So am I hearing that good uses of generative AI might not be bright and shiny, but they can improve sort of the efficiency of the company and are essential to, a competitive advantage?
Yeah, yeah. It's again, it's things that could be small improvements, but when applied at scale, have a lot of value. Rather than trying to put something right, like something shiny, right in front of the customer. Uh, so yeah, those are some of the things that I think about, and being in the MLOps space, I was the cool kid on the block for a while, helping machine learning models get into production. But now we're on the advent of LLM ops, and there's a shifting focus of how do you get past the demo stage in some of these Gen AI projects? How do you productionalize them? What are the challenges of running these things at scale? From what's your RAG architecture? What's your document management look like? Do we leverage small language models? Do we leverage large language models? What are the cost implications of all of that? Me coming from the MLOps background, I look at things kind of through that lens as well.
That makes sense. Well, so what's a boring but concrete example of using a LLM in a retail sort of context where actually you think it's helpful or you think it actually has a positive impact?
It could be something like as simple as like route optimization.
Oh no, you're going to have to tell me more about that. What's route? That does sound boring. So I want to hear all about that. What is
Yeah.
route optimization?
Yeah, so it's under the umbrella of supply chain, right?
Yeah.
Either looking at how our trucks can get to our stores more efficiently to give them the product that they need on time, or even something like our deliveries, like what orders should our delivery drivers take in what order to get to our customers. And those are things traditionally handled by mathematical models, but in the space of Gen AI and getting recommendations out to the end users. So someone in our supply chain center or some driver in our store, how do you integrate that with natural language models to get them that information more effectively?
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of using natural language models in those cases. So you're talking about like getting supplies into Domino's so they can make the pizza, and then also just getting the pizzas out to customers, anything that can make any of those two sort of processes more efficient. And you're saying that generative AI can help in that case with communication with the people, or can they actually help with the routing, or what are the areas where it could help there?
I think anything and all are on the table at this point. I think the first step is that natural language assistant, for our store team members. That's something that we've been working with Microsoft on. So how do we allow our team members in the store to query an intelligent agent that has access to other models like vehicle routing or inventory optimization, and they can interact with that in natural language rather than having to log into an app or go into a system.
Oh, that's very cool. So I'm thinking of Mother in the Alien movies. I don't know. I have to throw out a sci-fi reference there, but
Yeah.
is the idea like people in like the Domino's pizza stores? This will allow them to more efficiently sort of manage all the stuff that's going on with with all the delivery and supply by talking to an agent that can have access to real-time information about everything, vast amounts of information. And for people who are just, working in the particular Domino franchises, that this gives them a way to be able to do this stuff more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're not talking about anything super glamorous. This is something that happens behind the scenes, not customer facing, but could bring a ton of value to our operations team.
That makes a lot of sense. You mentioned the partnership with Microsoft. I'm curious about, can you tell me more about that? I'm really curious about what that partnership looks like, what you're working on together. What are you doing with Microsoft?
Yeah, I'm really excited about our partnership with Microsoft. I've seen it unlock a ton of value, and it's really a partnership focused on that business value. Like, where can we partner to unlock business value and strategically put resources towards a common product that we can launch and partner with together? So they've done great. And when it comes to enterprise AI, I mean, they're crushing it. I have to say, I remember, watching, the launch of the first open AI model, and, you had to go to the open AI platform to leverage it. And it was really, really cool. And then 6 months later, it's in Microsoft Word, it's in PowerPoint, it's
Right.
embedded into Outlook.
Right.
So that, the time from general availability of these Gen AI models to Microsoft incorporating it into their tools was incredible. And then on top of that, they have, on the developer side, their cognitive services suite.
Yep.
Allows a data scientist to really seamlessly leverage some of these open source AI models, and it's plug and play into business application. So they've done a lot of things right when it comes to enterprise AI and establishing partnerships, at least from what I've seen.
That's very cool. Well, I also have to ask, I noticed I think it was on your LinkedIn profile that you guys recently had a hackathon where you're trying out different sort of uses of AI. I love hackathons. I've worked in a lot of companies where we've had hackathons, and hackathons are fun because, all sorts of crazy ideas that may never see the light of day. They bubble up and people have fun, and they get to, they get to try out really crazy ideas. I was curious, is there anything that you can share with us about where there are like really crazy uses of generative AI that came out of the hackathon?
Yeah, I love it. I love the hackathon spirit as well. I think it brings out a really fun element. And yeah, that's another shout out to Microsoft. They partnered with us on that hackathon, and they provided some coaches for us to help skill up our team members, and it was really cool to see. I mean, we had a few general education sessions and a few pre-sessions, but our hackathon was basically 12 hours,
Wow.
and we came up with
Wait,
five or
straight?
six.
12 hours straight?
Yeah,
Nice.
it was a long day,
Okay. All right. Yeah.
but we came up with, I think, 5 or 6 working demos at the end of it, like,
Nice. That's
which
good. I mean, yeah, that's impressive. In 12 hours,
yeah,
getting any code doing anything in 12 hours is very
yeah,
impressive.
yeah. So like, shout out to our data science team and the partnership with Microsoft. That was awesome. I don't know how much I can speak to specific things that came out of it, but
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure won't see the light of day, but it was really cool. So I'll say this one.
Okay.
One team came up with a pizza meme generator.
I love
So
that. That's
I
very
really
cool.
love that, and it really came up with some far out pizza themed images. So
Yeah.
I really
Yeah,
love
I could
that
see
one.
where that might go wrong, though. You might want to be
Yeah,
cautious about making that public. But still, I mean,
yeah.
it sounds very cool.
We don't want to put any of these images in front of customers anytime soon, but it was a cool thing.
That's nice. Uh, um, all right. Well, changing topics a little bit, I noticed that there's been a lot of talk about hyper personalization.
Mm,
I'm going to put that phrase in quotes because I don't
yeah,
totally understand what hyper personalization means, but I know that that's something that Domino's have talked about. That one of the things that AI provides is ability to do hyper personalization. Treat me like a dim-witted 4-year-old. What is hyper
oh, I'm
personalization?
not
What?
going to do that to you.
No, please, yeah. Why should I care
Um,
about it? What does it mean?
yeah, it's probably one of these things that means something a little bit different to every practitioner that's in this space. But how I kind of defined it is, traditional personalization that we see, leveraging more traditional ML techniques to achieve is usually at the segment level. So we create groups of people that we think will respond similarly to specific marketing material,
Got it.
and we group them together intelligently using machine learning and
So
maybe
this
even
is
using.
like teenagers versus, I don't know, people in
Yeah,
Ohio, whatever. But there are different segments of customers where you're creating personalized, like, sort of
right.
offers and things like that based on sort of that division between people.
Yep, it could be, families of 5 that order pizza for Friday night movie night once a month,
Got it. Okay.
right? And we kind of group people into their occasion and their demographic profile and their propensity against certain types of ads. Like, I might respond to the mix and match more than someone that might respond to 20% off. They're very similar, but uh, so we build those segments, and we use traditional ML to build out those segments, and maybe even to target when to provide that nudge to you. When I think about hyper personalization, I mean that's at the individual level,
Okay.
right? So I'm tailoring something that's specific to Zach Fregoso, right?
Right.
You know, I know once a month, Zach meets with his friends to do Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm going to send him a special Dungeons and Dragons coupon. And
Nice.
I'm going to
Yeah.
give him the nat 20% off. If Dungeons and Dragons joke. But,
I
you
don't
know,
get it, but I'll go
yeah,
along with
that's
it.
fine. But, something specifically
Right.
targeted to me, and the
Yeah.
content is also unique to me.
Right.
Now, I think we're a long way off from that, and
Okay.
it's uh, not something that Domino's is like pursuing now. But I think when I think macro of the industry, we'll start to see that type of hyper personalization that is only achievable with Gen AI, because the content needs to be developed in semi real time, or it needs to be customized, right?
And I mean, I know people's, well, a lot of people will have the immediate response to that is, oh no, I don't want Domino's to know all that information about me. The, horror of knowing that I play Dungeons and Dragons being in some system. And I don't quite know how to feel. I mean, I know that's always been sort of a traditional problem of advertising. On the one hand, I want to get relevant ads. I mean, if I play Dungeons and Dragons, there's certain things I'm more likely to buy, and I want my 100-sided dice or whatever. I want, ads for me. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, it's scary. We've all heard the story of what they start sending off to, was it Target who started sending off ads to pregnant women before they realized that, before they told their husbands, which is, a little frightening. So I don't know. How do you think about that? I mean, it's sort of that balance between, on the one hand, creating very personalized experience for people, but also, balancing that against the, creepiness factor of these machines knowing you better than maybe your husband and wife knows you.
Yeah, it's the field of like data privacy and just the evolution of that over, and the merger of that data privacy with Gen AI. It's really interesting. And you look across the globe, and different countries or societies are handling it differently than others.
Right.
So you look at Europe, for example, at GDPR, have taken a really strong stance at the at the legislative level to kind of protect customers, in their countries, and that we work in those markets, so familiar with those differences. But Domino's we put data privacy and we put the customer first, right?
Yeah.
So really, a lot of our personalization at this point is driven from our loyalty. So it's our loyal customers that opt in to the Domino's family, and they're part of the loyalty program, and they're diehard Dominoids, and those are the people that we try to.
No, I wasn't suggesting that this was a Domino's issue. It's more of like, I even get nervous now when ChatGPT says memorizing, you're typing along and I said, oh, my toenail looks weird. And it's like memorizing. It's like, no, please, ChatGPT, don't memorize the fact that I have a weird looking toenail. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it seems like a problem with, on the one hand, I understand the value of hyper-personalization, being able to give customers exactly what they need. But on the other hand, there is that coming issue of like, how much do we want our AIs to understand, all these different facts about our lives?
Yeah, totally. I didn't mean to say that, that was, toot the Domino's horn in any way. It was more along the lines of, I think that's the approach that we see companies take, and I support it. It's like more of an opt-in kind of approach. You see like Apple with, their that's kind of their stance that they've taken across their ecosystem, is customers have to opt in to the experiences that they believe are value. There's value in providing my data because I get some kind of a something that I value or service back for that. And I like that approach. Put it in the hands of the customers. Let them decide where they want to opt in, where they want to opt out.
Consent. Yeah. No, that absolutely makes sense. So, want to ask you about, this was in all the news recently. There was the experiment with McDonald's, and they were trying to, I have to tell you, I hate ordering at McDonald's, going through the drive-through. I don't know why they haven't figured out microphones in the drive-throughs, but it's always a long argument and yelling and, going back and forth. And so I thought, once we got like the generative AI, that, oh, this will be fixed. It'll be beautiful. They'll be able to listen to the orders, and this will make things much more efficient. And I was like, oh, I was looking forward to that day. But I read recently that there was an experiment. They piloted a program with IBM, it failed horribly. People were asking for, to get ice cream, and the AI would say, "Do you want bacon in your ice cream?" And all sorts of crazy things. Ordering 228 McNuggets, or just things that would be, that, as much as I get frustrated with the human order takers, is stuff that they would never get wrong. They would never suggest like putting bacon in my ice cream. And so I'm
Mhm.
curious what you think about that. I mean, is this showing limitations that we're going to run into with large language models, or is this like, I mean, how do you, I don't know, how do you interpret that experiment? What went wrong, and is there a lesson that you can take away from that for Domino's and other retail businesses?
Yeah. So, my first comment on that would be I give them a ton of kudos. So, being in the retail space, deploying anything at the edge,
Yeah,
so any kind of technology that's at the unit level is terribly difficult because if you run into the situation where you can test it in one store, you can test it in two stores, but for Domino's, we have 6,800 U.S. locations. Double that plus some across the globe. McDonald's, I think, has the neighborhood of 13,000
right.
U.S. locations. So you're not managing one model. You're managing 13,000 models. Um, so I think that's why you don't see more technology, at the unit level, like a drive through, because it's just it's a very difficult thing to do. And if your customers don't respond to it, and
Yeah,
it's not changing their order frequency or their propensity, um, then there's not an ROI. So, uh, and that goes back to my original point, right? You got to focus on the business value.
yeah,
It might be a cool thing to do to have AI in your drive-through, but is it going to change customer behavior or save enough time in the store to warrant the big investment in getting that in your units? So I don't know exactly what happened with this project, but I know it's a terribly difficult thing to do that at scale. And you're right. It could be a little bit of bad timing before the LLM boom.
right.
Uh, I think customers generally don't like talking to AI. And right now, certainly before LLMs and even in the era that we're in right now, customers can tell that they're speaking to an AI. Now,
Yeah,
that might change. It might change quickly.
right.
Uh, but at least for right now, those are my thoughts on those type of
That
projects.
that makes sense. I mean, I guess one thing I'm curious about is, right now the web and order taking is very form driven. And I've done like podcast interviews with like, a company called Formless, which is trying to replace forms with conversation. But there's lots of people out there who are making the claim now that, forms are kind of old technology. The future is more intuitive. People interact better in conversations. And this is what LLMs give us. Do you think that we'll reach a day where, forms aren't part of the ordering process anymore, where people will want to do like just direct voice interaction, for example, with
Mm.
websites to be able to order stuff? And I mean, especially everything you just said about like how difficult it is to test these things and get to the point. Do you think that would be far off in the future, or do you think it will never happen just because it's really hard to change or even to test changes in customer behavior in that way?
Yeah, this is this is getting into the speculative territory that I enjoy, right?
Right,
Because
right.
uh, we live in an age that's so fun where expectations just continuously get surpassed, right?
Yeah,
Llama 3.1 just got released, and I can just remember last year we didn't know if open source models would ever beat closed source models, and there's a big gap, and is that gap ever going to close, or just is it just going to get wider? And we closed the gap, and they're already working on Llama 4. So we're moving at such a pace where we're trending towards higher accuracy, reduced cost, and more availability.
yeah,
So if this trend line, if we extrapolate it out, Absolutely. Forms, will be doing a lot more things in natural language, and and the the uncanny valley of differentiating between an AI and a person
Yeah.
will disappear.
Yeah. Okay. So you think there is a bright future for the death of forms? I'll phrase it like that. That there's that's kind of a weird way to say it, but I mean, but long term, I mean, this things are changing quickly, but you think we'll potentially get to very different kinds of interactions between websites and humans as this
Yes.
technology evolves.
Yeah. I mean, again, people generally don't like interacting with AI,
Yeah.
but
Well, yeah.
if we
Now, yeah,
continue, yeah,
it's awful.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's because they know it's AI, right? And
Right.
there's something that's different than a typical human interaction.
Right. Right.
If we continue on this path, that will disappear.
Yeah. That
And
makes
then,
sense.
people do prefer interacting with, like a human, like
Yeah.
now. So if they can't tell the difference in the future, then we have a lot more, AI, but seemingly human interactions.
That's both cool and creepy. But yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, outside of Domino's, have you seen any other exciting use cases for, like, I don't know, generative AI in retail?
Yeah. So one of the ones that just popped up recently that I've been super excited about is called Chef Robotics out of San Francisco.
But tell me
So
about that. Yeah, what's that?
it's really cool. So it's a robotics company, and they have developed robots that are powered by AI and can leverage AI to more mimic human flexibility, which is kind of been an issue when you're dealing with food.
Yeah.
Typically in robots, those jerky movements don't do well when you're working with food. Uh, but they're they're doing some really cool stuff and are already kind of producing meals at scale
Wow.
using robots. And I think that is just an exciting area of AI in general, is like introducing it into the physical world.
Yeah.
That I think is super fascinating, especially in the food space where, there's traditionally labor issues, when you talk about
Right.
food service,
Oh yeah.
right? So
Difficulties hiring people, difficulties, yeah, making sure you have enough people to produce all the stuff
yeah,
you need to produce. Yeah.
yeah, there's millions and millions of tens of millions of food service jobs, millions and millions of open positions at all times. So, that is a really interesting one when it comes to food service. But, if we could start applying that to retail in general and leveraging AI to again, like come into the physical world,
Yeah.
uh, that's super fascinating to me. It's a little bit behind the Gen AI, which is it's in the virtual world. It's kind of easier to scale, get out there, but coming behind it is this physical AI wave that I think is going to be super interesting.
That's very cool. So is this technology dependent at all on, like, generative AI, or is this a completely different type of AI?
I'm not exactly sure. I know that the AI is related to the movement of the robots, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I did watch some videos and it's like, well, yeah, this seems like a step change in kind of robotics. But I'm not sure like how much Gen AI is going on behind
Right.
the hood.
So one of the things that you've brought up a few times is, you know, most likely the biggest impact that AI will have on retail businesses like Domino's will not be bright and shiny. It'll be improving operations, improving efficiency. Uh, you've mentioned the fact that, sort of AI agents can really help individual Domino's be able to, track what's going on. I'm curious about, like, I mean, do you see challenges? I mean, you guys follow at least partially a franchise model.
Hmm.
Do you see challenges in getting, like, stores to adopt new tools, new technology tools. How does that work? How do you actually get these tools introduced into individual franchises, and how do you get people excited about it? I mean, I would think that it might be challenging just to change very traditional businesses like pizza preparation. How do you get people kind of over that hump of adopting new technologies?
Man, you've correctly identified that's getting adoption, and let's just call it change management
Yeah.
is when you're in enterprise and you're working with AI, it's just it, it's such an underestimated you know obstacle or challenge, opportunity maybe for people working with enterprise AI is how do you introduce change? How do you make people feel comfortable, especially one of the biggest use cases for AI, in our stores and or in general, like in retail, is automated decision making, right? So,
Yeah.
When to restock this product, what cash registers should be open at what times, uh, various different kind of decision points that are made inside the store or retail unit. And there's benefit from leveraging AI to optimize those decisions, or at least make those decisions more consistent, not so variable on individual differences of a manager or a store operator. So when you're taking that autonomy away and you're saying we're going to let an AI make this decision for you, there's a lot of psychological implications to that. And how do you redirect that team member's energy towards something else that's value add, and that they can focus their energy on, and that they can seek reward and value from, and you're not just taking a decision away and leaving them with empty space. I think that's one of the biggest unlocks when you're thinking about change management and adoption. Is if you're taking something away, what are you giving back?
Yeah.
Is it free time to focus more on the strategic management of your store? Focus more on community partnerships, focus more on local store marketing, or optimizing your back of house. So
That's a good point. So you're saying that one of the challenges is if people feel threatened because it's taking away their autonomy or decision-making powers. And so you
yes.
have to carefully introduce these types of changes in a way where there's a shift in their role and they understand what that role is. I mean,
Mm.
one of the things, so I've done a lot of podcast interviews with like people who have pointed out that one of the big changes that we're getting with generative AI is a change from sort of having people be contributors to having people be evaluators, where they're moving from creating stuff to more like evaluating what the AI is doing to human in the loop, co-piloting, making
Mm-hmm.
sure that decisions that AI are making are good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Is this along the same kind of lines of thought here? It seems like there's some similarities here because you're saying that
Yeah.
perhaps, if these fears of autonomy, maybe the right way to think of some of these role shifts are it's almost like everyone's becoming a manager now. Everyone's delegating a lot of like stuff that they would do before where they would do the actual work to more like judging what the AI is doing as delegating that work over to the AI. Am I thinking about this in the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think avoiding framing something up as we're taking something away from you,
Yeah.
uh, or we don't trust you to make this decision, right? Not taking that approach, but take the approach of, hey, this is an opportunity to empower you,
Yeah.
to add value in other places, or to your point, to level up your contribution, to have a bigger impact. That's, I think, not only important for like retail adoption of AI, but that's kind of important for our society looking
Yeah.
forward. I heard a good quote. It's I want AI to do my laundry and fold my clothes so that I can make art. I
Right.
don't want AI to make art so I can do my laundry and fold my clothes.
I like that quote. Yeah,
So it's
I like
it's
that. My only fear there is, AI is starting to win art competitions. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not
well,
quite sure what to think about that.
exactly. That's what makes it scary. Is like a lot of the Gen AI, content right now is in the creative space, which
Right.
that is it's kind of scary. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think in the retail space, it's if when you're talking about change management and adoption, it's about the AI enhancing and making the lives of the team members more meaningful, more impactful, not taking something away.
That makes sense. Okay. I'm going to ask you a weird question. So I'm curious, like for people watching this episode, especially people working in, different retail organizations, I'm curious about like what you think the most important uses of AI are. And so let's pretend for a moment you get fired from Domino's. Sorry. You have to start at your own cookie business. You're starting
Okay.
from scratch, get to make cookies. If you're like trying to figure out how to allocate resources, what's the most important thing to do? Does AI come into that picture at all? Does it help you? What's the first uses of AI that you think about if you're starting a business from sort of scratch and thinking about where to invest your resources?
Yeah, that is a fun question, and it is something I've thought about in terms of, hey, what kind of things are Gen AI going to spark at a societal level? And one of the ones I think is a candidate is entrepreneurship. You know, I think what Gen AI, if I were in that space and I were starting a new business, first thing you could do is Gen AI could help build a business case for you, something that you could put in front of investors where that might have taken a month
Right.
or more. That could happen in a day with,
Right.
with Gen AI. And, doing the research on the market, understanding the risks and opportunities in a given industry, that's something that you would have to ask around or, do your
Right.
searching on the web and hope, you find that content. So now to go from idea to business case, I think the time there is dramatically reduced, and the net effect of that is you get more uh, business cases going out there, more opportunities for investors to invest in. But then, the barrier to entry is a lot smaller, so it could be faster. More of these are going to fail, obviously, but you'll have a higher volume. Uh, so like, even getting the business case is
Yeah.
where I would start. Um, but then, like the creative side, like we just mentioned, I'm starting, I think you said a cookie company,
Yeah.
right? And I want to start by marketing locally, just using my own social media network. Like I might have to go and partner with a marketing firm, get work on the creative. I'd have to probably float that money initially to invest in my marketing and creative assets. And you can generate a lot of those marketing materials with Gen AI and get the word out there and build marketing campaigns. Leveraging Gen AI relatively simply now.
So that's a good point. I mean, I guess I was thinking more in terms of like specific like use cases for AI. But I think what I'm hearing from you is really the way to think about leveraging AI is it just allows you to accelerate all the standard business tasks you'd have to do, creating the business plan, creating the marketing material. I can, imagine everything else in a company, just sort of accelerating entrepreneurship in general instead of like being like a new, like in the past, like when the internet, I still remember the days when the internet was first coming out and people started creating websites for the first time. That was a new thing that you could add. But I guess what you're saying is this is a little different from the introduction of the internet. This is more like an introduction to something that just changes everything. It transforms all the steps in the process.
That's how I think about it. Certainly, if you're thinking of, you know, what business can you start that's centered around Gen AI? Certainly, there are opportunities out there now, but those are getting eaten up really quickly.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
if it were me, and you said, "Hey, what are you doing next?" Probably wouldn't be getting to the Gen AI space at this point. It'd be starting my own business that I could more rapidly get up and running, leveraging Gen AI.
That's very cool. Well, so I have to ask, if I'm interested in this stuff, what kind of resources should I look at? What's the best way to get information? I mean, how do you stay kind of, up to speed on everything that's going on in the retail space with AI? What's the best way for people to kind of, keep informed?
Oh, it is. Things are just running at breakneck speed. So, it's certainly not in a textbook. It's certainly
Right.
not like even traditional publications, traditional courses, online education center. Like they're starting to produce AI content, and there's a lot of resources out there for that, and they're pretty much up to speed, and you can caught up with those. But I think it's honestly venues like this where you're hearing from people directly
Oh,
that are
nice. You're
working
promoting
in
my
this space.
podcast. I love
Yeah,
that.
well, you wrote that in the notes to make sure I said that. So,
Nice.
I'm just joking. You didn't do that. But it is things like this, and part of the reason why I agreed to this podcast is, this is information I would like to have if I was new to this space. Is someone venues like this, like podcasts, YouTube channels, things that are speaking to practitioners who are working with this, not necessarily scientists and hardcore data scientists that are developing the models. Like if you're interested in that in-depth knowledge, certainly, but talking to practitioners who are working with this can kind of speak to the good, the bad, and the ugly with a balanced perspective, I think is really, really important. And yeah, I think it's venues like this that kind of put that content out there.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really interesting discussion. Super appreciate you taking the time today. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you for the conversation. This has been a lot of fun. The irony of a guy working for Domino's Pizza talking about AI doesn't fall deaf on me. I love I love the seeming contradiction there, but yeah, this has been a fun conversation, and thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the OpenAI Changes Everything podcast, where we explore how OpenAI is transforming the future of humanity. Please remember to subscribe to ensure that you receive future episodes.